All right, welcome back to WagerTalk.com. We're going to have the video best bets for this week. We're going to start right out of the chute with Preston's best bet. It's on Thursday night, and kind of pretty big game. We got San Antonio and Golden State. That's if everybody decides to play. We never know with Pop, but Golden State's got a little something to prove Thursday night. Shocker, Tuesday night losing to the T-Wolves, which I had Minnesota twice last week, and they couldn't get the job done, and then they go into Golden State and win outright.
That's usually how it goes. This place is completely contingent on who's playing and whatnot come tomorrow. I looked before, all the early lines for tomorrow. Some of the offshores don't even have a Spurs Warriors game up, and I don't blame the odds makers anyway. I wouldn't do it either until probably morning of, and you get a little more info on who the Spurs might be playing. If they decide to rest everyone, which certainly could happen, then I'll just stay away from the game. I don't want to lay double digits with the Warriors, even against the Spurs bench or whatever. But if everyone's playing on both sides, which I expect the Warriors to play everybody, one thing I like that Steve Kerr's done, he's kind of ignored, or at least a lot of the media are talking about how they just need to rest guys, and they're kind of slowing down here down the stretch at the end of the regular season. Problem is, they were resting the guys that were hurt. Iguodala hadn't played in a while. Bogut hadn't played in a while. Festus Ezeli hadn't played. In the last two games, they've brought these guys back, and they've kind of looked pretty dysfunctional. And I think they need to play together these last few games, getting into the playoffs, kind of get that rhythm back. And so I expect the Warriors to be playing all their guys. If the Spurs are too, then I do like the Warriors in this spot. Not only a bounce back from when they lost in San Antonio, I think it was Steph Curry and Klay Thompson's two of their worst shooting games of the year. And they still, with such a low-scoring game, they still were within 4 or 6 at the end of the game. So I like that, being at home now, coming off this Minnesota loss where they turned it over 24 or 25 times, the most all year for them. I'm going to play the Warriors, and again, it's contingent on whether or not the Spurs play everybody, and if so, then the line will be 4 or whatever, and I'll lay it with the Warriors.
All right, Bryan, my video best bet, and I know you're going to have some thoughts. You actually don't have a best bet for this week, but you got some thoughts on your Cleveland Cavaliers, and I'm actually looking at their game on Saturday. They're going into Chicago, and we're taping on Wednesday night, and as we tape, the Bulls are 2 games out of the playoffs, and pretty much they need a miracle because they got only 4 games left. 2 of them are against Cleveland and Miami, and then they need Indiana and Detroit to have a complete collapse, being 2 games behind. The Pacers and Pistons are tied 7th and 8th spot with, I think, 41 wins. Detroit's in the 8th position at the moment. But I look at this one, and irregardless if they are still alive for the playoffs or not, I think this is going to be their Super Bowl, so to speak, for Chicago. It's a Saturday night home game. It's their next to last home game, their final home game of the season. They play Philadelphia, so they're not going to get excited about that unless, obviously, they need the game to win. But I think they want to just, a satisfying, moral victory, whatever. I think they're going to have their best game Saturday night against Cleveland. And Cleveland's in kind of no man's land. I mean, they're going to be the #1 seed in the East. Do they rest players? I'm going to look for Chicago to take this one. And if they post the number overnight, and this is something that we're going to see the last week, you're not going to see a lot of overnight lines. But if you do on any of the teams that are in the playoffs already and you're looking to go against them and you see an overnight line, take it overnight, because the reason's going to be that's going to be when you'll have your best number. Worst case scenario, the next day you find out the starters for that good team are sitting. That line's going to go off the chart. It's going to go against you if you're looking again. So if you can get it overnight, don't wait till the next day. You're going to get your best number there. And then if it does go off the chart, you're going to have a nice middle if you want to come back the other way.
I'll comment on both games, actually. Pop had said a while back that he wanted his team to go into the playoffs confident. So he didn't think he needed to play his players against Golden State near the end of the season. But as we've seen before out of Pop, he says one thing and does another. And that's the thing you have to worry about. The line will tell you day of the game if he's going to play his starters or not. The other thing with Chicago is it benefits Chicago to not make the playoffs because they're not good enough to beat the Cavaliers. They're not good enough to beat Toronto if they happen to be in that situation. They need to rebuild. They need to get some players and they've got so many older guys because of injuries, it doesn't benefit them to make the playoffs. So there's certain teams out there that I've been going against because I know Dallas is another one in the West. does Dallas really want to make the playoffs? They've got an older team. I think it's best for those teams to just lose the games, don't make the playoffs, don't get anybody else hurt. But I do want to talk about Cleveland a little bit here. Cleveland's playing some pretty good ball right now. Tyronn Lue has had some problems with the lineups. He really doesn't know what he has, which is pretty amazing when even he was the assistant, but he's been there all year. Cleveland right now is a problem because their big three, two of them don't play any defense. And that's the problem. When you play a team like a Golden State is really what they want to play eventually, assuming Golden State makes it, they need to be able to play defense. And when you've got both Love and Irving out there, and Smith isn't a good defensive player either. He's gotten better this year, but he makes stupid mistakes. When he gets frustrated, he fouls. So Cleveland really should be playing some other players to start. They haven't done it yet, and when they have, they've had a lot of success. But Thompson is an excellent defensive player. You can't play both of those guys, Irving and Love, at the same time. One of them is going to have to come off the bench. Thompson is a great defensive player. Let him replace Love in the front court, and they'd be better off. I think once Cleveland gets that rotation down, they're going to be tough to beat. But if they don't make the right moves, that's going to be a team that's going to be overrated.
Real quick, I don't know if you've seen recently since Irving's come back, the stat I saw on Twitter this last week is Cleveland's 14 points worse per 100 possessions when Irving's on the court versus off, which is pretty significant. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they took Cleveland pretty far Golden State pretty far through three. Well, they didn't have Irving or Love.
Right.
I don't know if that necessarily makes them that much better that they might have them healthy this time. I agree with Bryan. Dellavedova, sure, make fun of the guy because he tries really hard and plays dirty. But that type of stuff, Tristan Thompson was getting so many offensive rebounds for Cleveland. Those guys might be better alongside LeBron than the guys that don't play defense.
Yeah, you really want to look at who's playing in that offense. In fact, you mentioned the two players. They played on the second unit so often. They know each other so well.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. So pay attention to what Cleveland's doing. And if one of the big three is out, and it's not LeBron, let's just say Irving and Love is out, I would rather play the Cavs then and lay a lesser number because they seem to have played better that way.
Yeah, Love doesn't really like going to the bench,
though. He doesn't love it?
He doesn't love it.
He'll be going to a different team next year if the Cavs don't win it.
All right, guys. Hey, if you want to save $10 this weekend, baseball just started. PLAYBALL 10. Use coupon code PLAYBALL and the number 10. You'll get $10 off any package this weekend at WagerTalk. You can use that on the $69 weekend all access and make a great deal even better. That's it for this video. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk.com.